Moving on to Kawasaki's latest offering with the 650R. Actually, this bike's a lot of fun, and it goes head to head with the SV. This has no adjustment in it at all in the forks, so again, we're back to changing oil viscosity and springs. And on the shock, we can actually see it, which is nice. There's no rebound adjustment on the bottom, but just preload only. So again, very limited, but this is a bargain basement bike, there to do the job, mostly commuting and running around the street rather than track days. But this can actually be a ton of fun on the track. So let's measure this and assess the spring rates.
Plaza Cycle. Walk in and ride out with the Kawasaki, Honda, or Yamaha of your dreams. Remember, Plaza Cycle. Walk in and ride out.
So at 21, we're actually right in the range at 1.5 inches of adjustment. At 190 pounds, the shock's set pretty well, and it's in the middle of the ramp adjustment, so that's fine. We can use this, but it's the same as the SV. It's a gas emulsion shock, so a year maximum, 5,000 miles, and this needs to be replaced because the performance of the shock itself will go away quickly. So moving on to the front, let's see if it compares to the SV. Now we knew the SV was a little stiff, and indeed the 650R is actually just a tad stiffer in the front. So it's too stiff for Dave at his weight at almost 200 with gear. So that's not going to work well for Haley. All right, so with Haley on the bike, 40 pounds lighter. Wow, almost no compression at all in the back. The sag's very small, less than 1 inch. So this is, I think, obviously way too stiff. The shock spring's got to get changed. But it's interesting to note that just in that small weight range, the variance was pretty obvious. So there's a hint here that this may be a progressive spring, but we'd have to take it off and test it to see if that's actually true. Now we know the front is actually not going to work at all. So when we extended the bike, we know the maximum was 5 1/4, and this is 4 3/4. So she's getting only 1/2 inch of sag on the bike. So again, this is at this point completely unrideable. So the springs, if you're in her weight range, 130, 150, would have to come out and be softer springs in order for you to get some comfort and plushness out of the front end. All right, so with Chris on the back, I think with the measurement we got, I think we can see here that this actually may be a progressive spring. So it'd be worth at some point taking this off and testing it, and that will be in line with the R6 and the 675 and a bunch of other bikes that are moving towards this to cater to a bigger weight range of rider. Now we should find we get some movement out of the front with Chris given his weight, but as it's a standard motorcycle, it's not a sport bike where your weight is actually moved further forward. It may not be that big a difference. And indeed it's not. It's still just on 4 inches. So he's only got 1 1/4 inch of sag sitting on the bike. But again, part of that is the ergonomics of the motorcycle. It's straight back, set up, handlebar, and weight distributed in the middle of the bike, unlike a sport bike where it's pushed much more forward.